But let me tell you now, when I travel around, this country, Britain, is still held in very high regard. But we've got to live up to that. We can't just trade on former glories. It's not just flag waving, put some things up on LinkedIn, hope for the best. Yeah, I do like to wear a hat. Don't have a bowler hat, don't have a top hat. But now, thank you very much, I've got this hat. So, what do they say? What's that, Alfred? If the cat fits, wear it.
Absolutely. Hello and welcome to Ingenuity, the podcast series from HORIBA MIRA, where we go behind the scenes of next generation vehicle development. In each episode, I'm joined by an expert in their field as we reveal the mastery behind the magic. It is an absolute joy today to be joined by Roger Atkins. Hello, Roger.
Hello, Sarah. Can I just pick you up immediately on one thing? I'm more a specialist than an expert, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll get into your specialism later on in the podcast. As I say, it's an absolute joy for you, for me to be speaking with you today, and particularly in your new role as strategic brand ambassador for MIRA Tech Park. But first of all, I wondered, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Again, coming back to your specialist role, a little bit about your career and kind of how your journey's brought you here.
Yeah, sure. Well, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be in this new role as an ambassador. It means that I can tell people what I see, say what I see. That is what I do. That is my kind of stock in trade. I've been in the auto industry for 40 years, started as a car salesman, selling Saab cars in Belgium, which was exciting. My wife was in the Foreign Office. That's why I was there. And then since then, lots of different things, worked for OEMs, worked for startups, and indeed worked for myself for the last 10 years. So I've been in and around companies that are innovative. I'm always attracted to things that are what I think are cool and, innovative and interesting. So worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, worked with, a lot of people bringing new technology to the market. And certainly with electric vehicles, that was 2007. Not far from here, back over in Coventry with an electric truck company. But yeah, for the last 10 years, I worked for myself. I am basically a storyteller. I hang out on LinkedIn a lot. I post a lot. I sort of live on LinkedIn, a bit sad in some people's eyes, I think, but that's been where I've kind of plied my trade, if you like. And that's where I can help, present and echo what happens here at MIRA and other things I see to a wide audience as best I can.
Yep, and you're brilliant on LinkedIn, I have to say. I've been stalking you on there for a while. And you're a great information source as well, I think, in terms of what's happening in the industry.
Thank you.
But tell us a little bit more then about your role specifically here at MIRA Tech Park. Why did you want to come and work with us?
Well, for a few reasons, really. There's a lot of innovation here. I mentioned that's a key thing for me earlier. There's a good eclectic mix of companies doing different things. For sure, it's anchored in and around automotive, but it's about other things too, because the truth is, my world now is not just automotive. It's really about these two big industries that are radically changing after being essentially the same for 100 years. One is mobility, or call it automotive if you like, and the other one is energy. How we make and share energy and move energy all around the world. This is the most significant and important thing above everything else, above mobility. The number one thing of how does humanity work? How has it always worked? Is about energy, how you can heat, how you can cook, how you can light, how you can run industry. Everything is about energy. So I suppose in being involved in electric vehicles and batteries especially, connects it then into energy. And a lot of that stuff is going on here at MIRA. And yeah, I kind of, in a grandiose way, see myself as a citizen of the world. Yeah, I'm European, but I do live in Great Britain, and I do want to fly the flag for a country that has, given me so much, and I try to give something back. And at the heart of this location, which has been around so much longer than most people know, since what, 1944, 45?
46.
46.
Yeah,
So,
80 next year.
Well, there you are, big anniversary coming. And what does that mean? It means it sustained its position in leading innovation and showing people what's happened, and the development in it becoming HORIBA MIRA and being this incredible tech park what's not to like? Why wouldn't I want to be associated with that? So yes, I'm very proud to talk about this.
Brilliant. And we're absolutely thrilled to have you as well. And I think particularly because you're very commercial, you've got that kind of understanding of industry really from a global perspective. And we were just talking before, you're just back from some global travels in terms of particularly talking about mobility and energy. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Where have you been and what have you been learning?
Yeah, September's been busy, but two particular things. Earlier on, it was the IAA mobility event in Munich. Used to be the German auto show in Frankfurt, but then every 2 years they now have in Munich this IAA mobility show, so it's broader. It's about lots of things to do with getting from A to B and stuff. That was fascinating because it felt like the Germans were finally having a little bit of a resurgence and an ambition to get more involved in the electric vehicle arena. There were things like the BMW models coming out that were exciting. Volkswagen talking very much about energy. It was almost like you heard the word energy more than any other word at that show, hence my comments a moment ago. But yeah, there was a bit more of a renewed vigor and confidence from the European market. The reality is the Chinese are way ahead of so many things. Or should I really say, to be fair, more Asia. There is an Asia-dominated momentum to a lot of this market, and you could see that clearly in Munich. And then recently, well, just this week, a couple of days ago, I'm in Africa for Giga Africa, which is a company, Benchmark Mineral Intelligence's event to bring together the critical mineral supply chain people, geologists, miners, the midstream. The midstream bit is where you process a lot of these things like, graphite, cobalt, manganese, nickel, lithium, the things that we don't day to day know or see much about. I'm just trying to put a little bit more of a highlight to. And a country like Morocco, honestly, when it comes to MIRA, I could see MIRA in Morocco, the people in Morocco, one or two companies in particular, it's a global enterprise we're all involved in now. I can see some really good synergies between what I saw in Munich and what I saw in Morocco this week immediately and what I do here. So it's not just flag waving, put some things up on LinkedIn, hope for the best. It is about networking and introducing people together. So I've seen a bunch of things this month that I can now do that, with you and the team. So I'm looking forward to that.
Brilliant. And this comes back, I think you've just really explained your specialist role, I think, in that terms of, looking at everything in the in the process from, as you said, the kind of minerals all the way up to the mobility, the battery electric technology. It's, fascinating. Yeah,
it is. And I mean, let's put it all together. So it's right from mining, geology, right through to recycling. Yes. A lot of the ambition that you see here with some of your clients, some of the people on campus, it is not just about what can we make and have as a commercial enterprise, but where does it fit into the whole holistic picture of a circular economy? And that isn't just a great virtue and a target ambition anchored around climate change. This is about economics. You kind of almost, Sarah, reverse engineer things. You say, what needs to get done that can produce money? There's no shame in talking about profit. Profit and ambition commercially is how we will get change to happen and tackle climate change. It can't just be all for a singular virtue of doing the right thing. Doing the right thing has to be productive and economic for continents, countries, and companies, and us as individuals. That point about when will the electric vehicle ambition really kick off? Well, when it's better and cheaper. That's it, and that's coming, by the way. But, I don't want to keep wandering off on tangents because I do that a bit.
Well, no, so I'd love to hear about that in terms of, as you said, I mean, I'm a new EV adopter.
Yeah.
There is still some progress that needs to be made, some work that needs to be done. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, again, go back to energy. One of the things that you saw at IAA, that's been around for a while, but it's accelerating, coming to a head, is bidirectional charging. What does that mean? It means that you can put energy in and take energy out of the battery. And if you can do that either as an individual or collectively as a fleet or whatever, you can then use that battery in the EV for what they call energy arbitrage or trading energy. So you, for example, can buy buy an electron for a unit of electricity for, say, 7 pence a kilowatt hour in the middle of the night because there's capacity. And then you can sell it back to the grid for 20 pence, 30 pence, whatever. And we're going to start to see people making money out of their electric vehicle battery, both individuals and companies. And so that's a big thing. But the mismatch between home charging cost and public charging cost is a big issue.
Yeah.
And, trying to flatten and rebalance that better, that will encourage people to adopt electric vehicles, smaller electric vehicles for sure. Too much of the European and sort of North American proposition has been in bigger luxury cars, electric cars, which is great because for a lot of manufacturers, they make more money that way. So the evolution of a broader mix of vehicles available, the way in which those vehicles and those batteries can make and be part of the energy grid and earn people money, that's changing. So there's a lot of stuff, that's going all in the right direction. And then the other thing is, and you see it here a lot, there is significant progress around the technology. The internal combustion engine, after arguably 150 years, has got as good as it'll ever get. The thermal efficiency of an internal combustion engine is circa 30%. So 70% is wasted. And in a world in the 21st century of full focus on efficiency, it's time to move on to a better technology with a managed transition, by the way, Sarah, because there's a lot of this talk, focus on 2035 as a deadline and what does it mean? A lot of the customers here traditionally and even now are still companies anchored in that internal combustion engine proposition. So helping people understand how we make a managed transition over time is really important, and having an intelligent discussion about that, but not just discussion, putting plans into action and making stuff happen. And again, that's why I like being here, because this is about stuff getting done, new technology come in. People like, the company doing the new acoustic technology around sound. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear that myself, especially Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon through that. Seriously, I can't wait for that.
But again, a technology, so we're talking about Warwick Acoustics and, again, a technology that actually solves a challenge in terms of the automotive industry, so reduces the power consumption, I think, by up to 90%.
Yeah, and the weight. I mean, it's phenomenal stuff. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing where, progress, engineering progress, manufacturing progress, progress in terms of solving a problem. Because one of the things that I definitely saw a bit when I had my time at Ricardo was a lot of clever people can come up with a great invention, but what problem does it solve? They haven't looked at the total addressable market or the total opportunity market. And, anyone who's going to survive going from, coming up with a great idea to delivering it and sustain it has to understand there's got to be a market for that. And again, I get the sense that here there is a lot of support for people to give them that flavor and ability to think about the commercialization side, not just the imagination and the entrepreneurial, engineering stuff. Putting those two things together.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that because, as you know, MIRA Tech Park was the location for the launch of the government's industrial strategy back in at the end of June. And I mean, your perspective is global. You see this global industry. Is the UK doing enough? What more do we need to do here to kind of, I guess, fly the flag, as you said, in terms of our capabilities?
Well, it's a start, because for the best of my knowledge, I can't remember us having anything even called an industrial strategy for far too long a time. And we now know in this year, 2025, this is the 10th year of the Made in China 2025 strategy, which is, delivered incredible results. Are we doing enough here? No, not yet. Are there indications that we are starting to do the right things? Yes. For example, when it comes to grid connections, there have been recent legislation and a drive to reorganize how that happens in practical terms. So rather than, some significant things being at the back of a queue to get their grid connection, there's a merit-based system now to get the right things with their grid connection, because this is a very important part of the electric revolution, not just EVs, sort of everything, data centers, AI, all these things now are coupling together that mean we need to have that modern connected system. So yeah, I think there are some really good things, but it is above everything else about being consistent. All of this stuff is long term. I've just been in, as I mentioned, in Morocco. What they have there, their system, they have a king. I think it's the second oldest monarchy in the world. I didn't know that, if I'm really honest, before I went there. But what that means is they've had consistent industrial strategy. They've got pretty smart politicians. We heard one, the trade minister came and spoke without auto cue, without notes of any sort, and knew what he was talking about, which is good. So I think having consistency, I don't want to get too political, because I guess, you have to avoid that on podcasts and things, but it would be good if we see ministers of state stay in role for more than, say, a year or 2 years or 3 years. Because in the last administration, there were a lot of changes, cabinet reshuffles and the like. What's good to see is someone who gets on top of their brief, works well with their team and industry, and then gets stuff done. There's another term about getting things done, but I don't want to use a rude word on your podcast.
Yes, we'll get told on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And in terms of the UK's reputation globally, we've sort of got a bit of a challenge, haven't we? We're known for innovation, and great R&D, and great research, world-leading research. But when it comes to actually commercializing it, the tendency is to do that elsewhere in the world. Is that what you see as well? Is that kind of how the UK is perceived?
Yeah, it is. But again, I think, look at the new industries, particularly in and around energy. And one of the things that comes out a lot in the conversations I've heard this month, places I've discussed, is where do we get the talent from? Where are the young people, especially young people, in terms of not just at university or coming out of university, at primary school, at infant school, a focus on STEM subjects, a better focus on, not for political correctness, gender balance, encouraging more girls and young women to focus on some of these arenas and subjects that perhaps have been over-dominated by men and boys. And why would you do that? Like I said, not purely for, if you like, as some people say, political correctness. It just makes complete sense to have a talent pool of the whole population rather than half of it. That's just stupid. So, and I think we're getting better at that here in the UK. And as I say, some people perhaps misinterpret that, but that's just good business sense. So we've got great universities. We could improve our schools, I think, better, especially in focusing on the training and the development of subjects for tomorrow's industries for the next number of decades. We train a few people a little bit for as things were in the past, I think. So where are we as a country? Well, within, we sometimes feel like we're going backwards. But let me tell you now, when I travel around, this country, Britain, is still held in very high regard. But we've got to live up to that. We can't just trade on former glories.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's important in a facility like this, a campus like MIRA Tech Park, to show people what that means. Tell people about the people that have been, drawn here. Give the evidence of what it happens. I'm not one for fluff and spinning stuff. It's got to be about really things that make a difference that I like to talk about.
So at the moment in the UK, the automotive industry, we're talking a lot about Drive 35.
Yep.
2.5 billion over 10 years from the UK government. It all sounds good, right? What are your thoughts on the project and the programme?
I don't want to sound disingenuous or look a gift horse in the mouth. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But in the scheme of things, maybe not enough. But like I said earlier about the fact that we do have now something called an industrial strategy, it's a start. So I think as with any kind of thing in terms of progress, you have to have a beginning. You have to start somewhere. So that's good. And again, when it comes to whether it's in Europe or in the UK or anywhere, where there's a political directive, an edict, call it what you will, that's all well and good, but you've got to put a plan behind it. This ambition now around 2035 and ceasing the manufacture of internal combustion engines, all well and good, but you've got to have a strategic plan that delivers that. How do we get to that point? You can't just click your fingers and hope it happens. So I think some of the stuff that we're starting to see the government deliver is just that, meat on the bones and a plan, which is good.
And I guess that plan is really important as well for investors and investment, right? We've got the investment summit happening, the UK investment summit happening in Birmingham, so just up the road from us. But yeah, tell us a bit about your experience around kind of that, gathering that investment opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great question, because you could argue is the number one question. And very quickly, if you go back to what happened in China, it's not all about the state. It's not all about government intervention. But if government leads, that triggers and gives the confidence to capital markets. This is what happened in China. There was plenty of private money that came in, external money that came in, because the government had given that, if you like, that roadmap. And so it's significantly important. And having now, and I hope that's what we're going to keep having, an annual investor conference where you bring together people both within the country and from outside, and you illustrate and prove this is our roadmap, this is our plan. That's where you then start to get that momentum and money coming in. We saw it recently with the visit of the American president and our king and our prime minister, all actually saying this is what we want to do. And billions of investment are announced into the country from some of the biggest companies in the world. What's not to like? Put aside any political affiliation you might have, or whatever your opinion of this person or that person. The lifeblood of any economy is investment and confidence and a focus on the future, and jobs. That's what we all need. So anything that works, anything in any way around all of that, Sarah, we should celebrate and support. And that's, I try to do that in my small way, simply by sharing that kind of news and telling people, what I think's going on. Yeah,
it's that alignment, isn't it? I think between government, industry, investment. It's that critical alignment that, as you said, we perhaps have been lacking from a UK perspective until now. So, very good.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you about the hats that you wear, because you're sort of famous, or infamous maybe, for wearing lots of hats, both kind of figuratively and literally. What hat are you wearing for MIRA Tech Park?
Well, in fact, I think camera team can let me have one. Yeah, well, I'm going to wear this one, aren't I? Because, it doesn't quite say, make Britain great again or anything like that. But the cowboy hat's having a bit of a rest for various reasons. So, I do like to wear a hat. Don't have a bowler hat, don't have a top hat. But now, thank you very much, I've got this hat. So, what do they say? What's that? Oh, afraid if the cap fits, wear it.
Absolutely. And so now, with your MIRA Tech Park hat on, can you give us a hint of some of the exciting things that are coming up? I know you can't say too much, but there's a lot going on here at the moment.
There is. Yeah, there is. One of the things I definitely learned at Ricardo, and I suppose I've learned in various places, is that you have to keep quiet about certain things as much as you might want to tell people, naming names or talking about particular tech. But there is definitely some momentum happening here around, I guess, some of what we've been talking about. I'm really excited to see it happening, not just electric vehicles, but anything now that's about power electronics, motors, inverters, batteries, feeds across into other industries, particularly the energy industry. Great to see you've got a big solar park here up and running now, connecting into the facility, as I understand it, talking to Jack and others, where this facility sits in terms of, connectivity, grid connectivity, comms connectivity. There's a lot of data flowing in and around the country now, even more than there's ever been these days, and lots more to come. All of that stuff, works well here. So, I'm looking at sharing what I mentioned earlier, the meat and the bones of this stuff. It's not enough to just say good stuff's happening, things are, occurring. Tell people, be specific, show people, show and tell.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
so absolutely. I'll be doing that.
That's why you're here. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. And just one final question. In terms of if someone's watching this and they think, Roger, I'd love to do what you do. What's your advice for the next generation? Because this isn't a role that you necessarily kind of train for, I guess.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. And like I said, I only started doing it 10 years ago. I think it's like treat every day as a school day. You know, education isn't about just when you're young and at school or, you know, university or whatever. You should learn all the time. Be prepared to learn all the time. I believe, you know, reading is pretty important. You don't have to be academic, you know, and I'm an absolute case in point. You don't even need to be really smart, quite frankly, to just have an appetite and a hunger to learn things. Be interested in people, and also try to help people, because there's no doubt, and it's not, I don't want to be religious or anything, but there is that thing of karma where, you know, the more you help other people, in truth, the more you're helping yourself, because you're getting, you know, you're feeling positive about things. You can see, hopefully, people succeeding in life and in business. So it's a virtuous circle. It goes right back to what we spoke about earlier, the whole thing of a circular economy, you know, have a kind of circular life, if you like. So, yeah, I don't want to ever stop learning. You know, every day's a school day, as they say.
Yes, absolutely. I could genuinely talk to you all day, Roger. I know we've had lots of conversations before this, and I'm sure we'll go on to have lots of really interesting chats in the future as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your global insights, and we really look forward to working with you.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and like I say, you know, I'm proud to be part of this. So, yeah, great. Let's just go and get some work done. Let's get on with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look out for that meat on the bones.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.